What do I need to start lure fishing for bass is one of the questions that I get a heck of a lot. So today in this video, I am going to show you what the essentials are, what you need to start lure fishing for bass this year. So we're going to start off with the most important component, one of the most important components of lure fishing: lures. Lures are an absolute minefield, man. There's hundreds and thousands of different lures, but you only need like 4, maybe even 3 to get started. You're going to want to look for some type of surface lure. They come in different shapes. They come in a whole bunch of awesome colors. Some of them got shine in the middle of them. Some of them are clear. What a surface lure is exactly what it says. It floats. These are really, really fun in the height of the season. You use these when the fish are active. It replicates a dying bait fish on the surface. If you're out and you see seagulls flying around and all those things, get a surface lure on, chuck out towards the seagulls, a couple twitches of the rod tip. These bad boys are really, really fun in the height of the season when the fish are active. In the early season, when the fish aren't so active, or maybe they're not taking baits off the top, get yourself some shallow divers. Shallow divers are the ones with the little lip on the nose. You can get ones that dive anywhere from 1/2 meter to 1 meter to 2 meters. These ones you use in the early season or when the fish are active, but they're just not taking a surface lure. Get one that drops down just under the surface and you'll be golden. We've talked about surface lures really quickly. We've talked about shallow diving lures. Now, the next one that you should probably have, or you need to have in your box, a metal lure. Metals like the Slingshot Surface Iron, Savage Gear Seekers, Weston Salties. You always want to keep a metal in your box. They can cut through headwinds, they cast mile, and they replicate small bait fish. So having a metal lure in your arsenal will, if the birds are too far out, if you can see fish or you think fish are further out from shore, stick metal on. 9 times out of 10, if fish aren't biting, they will bite a metal. The next one on your list, and this is what I mean about 4. When you walk into a tackle shop and they've got all those lures on the wall, those are different colors, those are different shapes, those are different brands. That's why it looks like there's so many. All you need is a soft plastic. And I get that there are absolutely loads of soft plastic lures just everywhere. It is absolutely overwhelming. You need maybe 1 shape and 1 size. All it needs to do is look like a little minnow. Get yourself a natural color one and get yourself a white one and you're set. You don't need all of this stuff. Eventually you can go out and get different colors and different sizes and different weights and things like that, but you don't need all that, man. All you need for yourself, go out and get natural color, shallow diver, soft plastic paddle tail, and a surface lure. These bad boys are so much fun. That's all you need. Plastic, shallow diver, surface. Bang. That's your lure done. If you're gonna go the soft plastic route, you're gonna need some hooks for it. I like to go with weedless hooks. You've got jig head ones and you've got belly weighted ones. Oh, and you've also got regular J hook ones. But you don't need all of it. If you're just getting into it, get yourself some jig head ones. These ones are the Decoy Violence VJ36. And these belly weighted ones are scratch tackle belly weighted ones. 3 gram you need, 5 gram you need, and you should be good depending on where you're fishing. If you're fishing off the coast, you'll need something a little bit heavier. So we've been through the lures, which are really important. You can't catch fish lure fishing without any lures. The most important part of your kit is your rod and your reel. Your rod and your reel don't have to be expensive. You can upgrade that stuff later on. The rod that you are looking for is going to be dependent on where you fish. I fish mainly estuaries and harbors, so if that's the area that you fish the most, what you're looking for in a rod length is 8'6", 8'8". You want a fast action rod, medium to medium light. The reel that you're going to choose for your rod doesn't need to be expensive either. You can go ahead and you can upgrade that later. For an 8'8" to an 8'6" fishing rod, I would recommend getting a 3000 size reel. And the best thing to do is go and see the reel, because different brands, different 3000 size reels are actually a different size. If you go and you get a 3000 size Penn, it will be bigger than a 3000 size Shimano. Braid on your reels. Braid is perfect for lure fishing. It's a really thin diameter and it's really, really strong. It has very, very, very little or no stretch at all, which aids in bite detection. The casting ability, because it's so thin, those lures will just fly out there, man. Braid doesn't have to be expensive. The Major Craft Dangan X8 is an absolutely brilliant braid for its price point. There are really, really expensive braids, but you don't need to go there yet. And some of those expensive braids, to be completely honest with you, are expensive for nothing. After you spool up and you've got that piece of braid hanging out of the end of your rod, you're going to want to put a fluorocarbon leader on the end. Why fluorocarbon? Because fluorocarbon helps with abrasion resistance. If you go straight through braid, straight through, tie your lure onto some braid, cast it out there and it rubs on rocks, eventually the rocks and even some of the weeds and the oyster shells will rub that braid, the braid will fray and it will snap. Fluorocarbon helps to stop that. Fluorocarbon has great abrasion resistance. It is virtually invisible in the water, and it'll make your lures look a hell of a lot more natural. Fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon. Braid, fluorocarbon. On the end of your fluorocarbon, you're going to want a little clip. These are breakaway mini clips. Tie that on the end of your fluorocarbon. That way you can change lures in and out if you need to. Not much really to be said about these. There are a lot of them on the market. I use breakaway mini links because I can't fault them pretty basically, and that's about it for the link. Pair of lip grippers would be nice for two reasons. One, if you catch a fish and you're a trebles man like me and you have a fish, this is in its mouth, you bend down to grab that fish and it decides it wants to kick, and you get one of those trebles in your finger, it hurts and you may end up in A&E. These will help to stop that. And fish care, man. We don't want to beat the fish up. We want the fish back in the water so somebody else can catch him or we can catch him next time. Pair of fish grippers. Thank me later. Pair of pliers you will need. When you get your pliers, make sure that they've got a braid cutter on them. Some of them have the braid cutter back here, some of them have the braid cutter up here, but a pair of pliers is really essential for when you need to change your leader, if it cracks off, if it breaks. Braid cutters are a godsend, and when you're trying to get the hook out of a fish's mouth using a pair of pliers, it's a heck of a lot easier. You don't have to get your hand down there and, like with the fish grippers, maybe get a hook in your finger, because man. Another thing I would recommend getting is a net. This net is really beat up, but if you've got a really nice fish on, you don't want it to get away. So get yourself a net. These don't have to be expensive. This one here is the Savage Gear Finesse floating net. That way I can just let it float around. If the fishing is really, really active and it's going nuts and I have a fish, I can leave it in the net, in the water, floating while I'm fishing for other fish. So if you're gonna get a net, doesn't need to be massive, but I would probably recommend look for a floating one. The last thing that you're gonna need is something to carry all of the stuff that we talked about you want to something to carry it all in. It can be a backpack, it can be a hip bag, it can be something. But if you have all your stuff with you, honestly, in a nutshell, that is all you need to start lure fishing. You need yourself a rod, you need yourself a reel, some braid, some fluorocarbon, a bag, fish grippers is extra, the pliers you need to get, that's essential, and maybe a net. You don't need a whole bunch of stuff to get started lure fishing. When you go and get your lures, surface lure, shallow diver, soft plastic, white, natural colors. Get yourself a rod, doesn't need to be expensive, a bag, net, some braid, some fluorocarbon, pliers. You don't need these, but I recommend them. Fish grippers, you don't need these, but I recommend them. And that's it. And you can get your butts out and go fishing this year, man.